Welcome back to another edition of Advancing Angelo, where we talk about all things economic development in the city of San Angelo, why it matters, and how it impacts you, the viewer. Today I have with me Michael Looney, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you, Tammy. I'm Michael Looney. I'm the VP of Economic Development for the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. And I've been in this position for 10 years now. Came here from Austin, where I was in the commercial real estate development and brokerage business. And we've been having a very good, successful couple of years here in economic development. That's why I wanted to come by and share with you and the viewers a little bit of an insight of what's going on. 'Cause a lot of what we do, we can't talk about. We're dealing with corporations. We're dealing with large infrastructure projects that we're usually not allowed to go public with. So I thought today we'd get together and just visit and talk about what's going on.
Yeah, let's do that. And let's talk about first what the primary focus is for economic development here, specifically industry.
Well, you've got really, when you look at a city, let's say, for example, and you've got really two types of economy. You've got your economy that runs within the city limits. So you've got your inter-economy. So you've got your retailers and you've got citizens, and the citizens patronize the local retail operations. You've got CPAs, service companies, plumbers, what have you.
Yep.
All those types of services. Well, they're going to pretty much keep those dollars regional. So they're going to circulate, which is very healthy. So that's your circulatory system, if you will, for the dollars. The other side of economic development is more of the investment side. So that means kind of like the oxygenation of the body. So you're bringing fresh money, fresh capital into the community. And the way you do that is you manufacture, either create services or you manufacture goods that are exported outside of the community. So it's kind of a two system method that creates a really healthy, balanced economy.
I love that. And so talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned we've seen a lot of success in the last couple of years in San Angelo. Let's talk about what makes San Angelo unique, special, and why we are, positioned to be a great prospect, if you will, for some of these organizations that want to come in.
Yeah, it's a great question, and we get asked that a lot. A lot of companies are throughout the world. Global companies are looking to get into the Texas market. Texas, if and you've probably heard this before, if Texas were an independent country, it would have the 8th largest economy in the world. It's a very, very powerful state economically. So a lot of companies are seeking to get into the Texas market, to have some kind of a participation in being from Texas, because there's so many benefits. You've got an excellent infrastructure system, a growing population, a population that brings many skills from the highly technical down to the levels of basic entry-level manufacturing, because our population is growing. You've also got a very interesting and unique geographic location. So you've got access to the seaports in western Mexico via highway and rail, not as far as people think they are. And you've got obvious access to the seaports on the Gulf Coast. Big energy producing area, big technology producing area. You recall 20 years ago, we've talked about this, you and I, how Austin decided 25 years ago to stand up and challenge the Silicon Valley. And as we can see, it's been very successful. But what you see is the major markets, the Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, San Antonio markets are very, very full, high capacity. The cost to develop in those communities is high. So it's what they call the barrier to entry. So what we find is that a lot of companies, good-sized companies, major companies, start looking outwards, and they start to look for what are known as tertiary markets. So kind of like where Austin was 30 years ago. Small city, self-contained, easy access, but easy to also establish a presence in. San Angelo is going through that right now. There was a burst of that in the mid 1960s, and that's when we saw Ethicon. That's when we saw
Levi Stratus.
Goodyear. You saw Levi, very big facility. R.G. Berry, and then that tapered off, and now we're starting to sense and see and experience that renaissance. And what we've been doing and why we've been coming on to programs like yours is to inform the community that this is coming whether we want it or not.
Yep.
And if the community works together, they can guide that development. And that's what's known in the industry as smart growth.
Yep. And I know at one point, as someone that's lived here my entire life, there used to be a lot of community chatter, if you will. There was a legitimate fear that San Angelo was going to grow and we wouldn't be the quaint retirement community that we all have grown to know and love. And so can you talk to me a little bit about just in the last 10 years, what your experience has been in educating our citizens and really like putting that kind of fear to rest with helping people understand that growth is good, you know, because I think that a lot of people have actually feared this growth, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, and it's a very natural concern, and it's a valid concern. Citizens see their city and they understand the complexion of it. They understand the culture, and they see the intangibles that make San Angelo a very special city. And they don't want it to be overrun with growth that is so speculative and so rampant that it changes the complexion. And I don't think that will happen. And I think there's really two reasons. One, I think there is enough guidance and investment from the citizenry, community leaders, our county commissioners, our mayor, our city council members, to where they understand that the growth is going to happen, but that it needs to be encouraged to be done correctly.
Yep.
Good example of that would be, we don't necessarily want to recruit a company here that's going to use millions of gallons of water a month. You know,
no water park.
That would probably be, well, they recycle water. But if you guide the growth will happen in a very constructive way. What people see are cities throughout the United States that had open country growth.
Yeah.
They took everybody. And the cities grew out of control.
Yeah.
And that's what they don't want to happen. You're generally going to see that if you're in a city fairly close to a major metro area where your small city becomes absorbed into a larger metropolitan area. San Angelo is far enough from, say, Austin, which is really our closest neighbor. Midland, you could say, is another very close neighbor, to where that's really not going to happen. And that's a good example is when you look at, let's say, Midland, that economy it's a mining town, and a very, very good one, and very successful. 40% of the United States petroleum products come from the Midland area. It's a massive amount of energy and wealth creation. But yet in San Angelo, 2 hours away, we don't have that. It's a very different city. So I don't think that fear is going to really manifest. I mean, it's okay to have the fear, we understand, but I don't think that's going to manifest into an actual event where we're going to lose control of our city's culture. Right.
Which and it helps to get that message out that that's always top of mind with our city leaders as you guys are continuing to grow our city. And
Tammy, if I may say, we see a lot of transactions that are very interested in San Angelo. They're looking at many cities at the same time. And there are times where we'll just have to say, guys, look, this just isn't a fit. And we could probably make it work, but would it be sustainable? Yeah. And if it isn't, maybe it's not the right fit.
I love that. And we've actually had conversations about even the opposite, where companies who have been rooted and established here in San Angelo may have been looking to be acquired or move outside and made the decision to stay here. That's right. So it's twofold. I love that. Let's talk about population and its increase over the last, couple of decades. It's no secret that what once used to take 5 minutes to get from one side of the town to the other is now a good 15, 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. we have a true 5 o'clock traffic, and let's talk about that population and how it's attributed to this growth.
Well, the city, the population has grown 17% in the past 20 years, which is a very good, manageable, steady growth rate. That doesn't include the students that come from around the country to train at Goodfellow. That doesn't include the Angelo State University students.
This is a true population increase.
This is true population. so if you counted those students at both, say, Goodfellow and ASU, you'd probably be seasonally in the 20% or 25% growth, but it would be seasonal. So those aren't permanent residents, and that's how they count it.
Yeah.
But that's a good steady indicator of the kind of organic growth that we're seeing. Interestingly enough, you said something that really is an interesting point. Retirement. I think even when I got here to San Angelo, I thought it's got industry, it's got education, it's a beautiful city. It's very conscientious about preserving its natural beauty and enhancing it and amplifying it, but it's kind of got a retirement-heavy leaning. It actually doesn't. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't retirement communities here and that there aren't retirees here. The median age of San Angelo is 34.
Ah, interesting.
That is very low. That means we've got a lot of people in this city who are young families that are growing.
Taking root, yeah.
That's right. And that metric doesn't count the educational institutions. So if it did, you might have a median population of 30.
Yeah.
So it's a youthful population. And that's very attractive to industry. So industry is always looking for where Austin was a prime example 20 years ago, 25 years ago. They knew it was a very vibrant, youthful population. That means when you settle a company, you're going to hire people in their mid-20s or early 20s, and there's a pretty good chance
they're going to stay.
Maybe not the individuals, but that demographic will act as a feedstock for technicians and employees for that company for a long time.
Yeah.
So you want to look for youthful population.
Yeah, no, I love that. What is an average benchmark? I mean, you say 17% over the last 20 years that our population has grown. What is a standard benchmark for communities our size? So,
of our size, that's about right. That's about average. Most communities of our size are within 10 to 30 minutes from major metropolitan areas. Maybe an hour on the outside of that.
So people are coming in and out.
So Tyler, Texas is a great example. Beautiful city. 70 minutes from Dallas, but still it's experience at that, similar type growth to San Angelo. But what we're seeing is that industry and citizens, residents who are looking for a change, usually aren't coming from the very sparsely populated agricultural areas in the cities like San Angelo. It's usually the converse. It's usually people coming from the big cities into smaller communities like San Angelo. And we see that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. Let's talk about some new developments that are coming up, because there's a lot of things happening in our community in the upcoming years. One of the big ones, everybody who is a citizen and has been here forever knows the Sitel Tower.
Yeah.
And that has been completely transformed and is going to be something new. Let's talk a little bit about that. It's going to be the Technology Tower. What does that mean?
Tech Tower, yeah. Well, Sitel had a very successful operation for decades here in San Angelo, and they went to they were on the cutting edge of going to an optional work from home model. Very successful. So when COVID hit,
changed everything.
They looked brilliant.
Yeah.
and they took a gamble on that, and it worked. Very smart company, very smart management. But it left the tower, and so the tower actually sold to two companies that formed a joint venture, VGI Technology and Snyder IT. And they formed a JV and bought the tower to turn it into not just operational and office space for those two companies, but to serve really as an incubator for other tech companies that are in the region. Their pre-leasing is doing very, very well. I'll let them come on
and talk about more
in another couple of episodes and let them give the details.
Love it.
But that is going to serve as a real magnet for the fostering the growth of technology companies and software as a service type companies that are here already that need a space to grow and collaborate. So it's really going to be a tech tower / incubator.
But then that makes it more attractive for other tech companies,
yet,
right?
And it's already we're getting phone calls, and we don't even own the building. I mean, we're just shuttling those calls back to those two companies. So that's going to be really exciting, and that's a solid model because it takes advantage of the entrepreneurs that are here.
Yep.
And boy, about 2 years ago, the chamber got involved with creating. We were involved with helping to stand up an organization called the CVTA, which is the Concho Valley Technology Alliance.
Okay.
And that has really opened our eyes to just how many people who live in San Angelo work within the technology industry, oftentimes for companies that don't even have a storefront or a bricks and mortar here.
Yeah.
You'd never know it.
Yeah.
Because they work from home.
Yeah. Work for another state. I mean, it's exciting to hear that because hopefully it serves as just kind of the pillar for more technology companies to find.
Oh, and it's already happening.
Yeah.
So it's already started.
That's exciting.
We're just trying to get our arms around who are these people
and do we want them here?
How can we help?
That makes sense. Okay, let's talk about a few others. Let's talk about the San Angelo Railport.
The Railport's a project that really was started about 5 years ago. And that was in anticipation of the great work that Texas Pacifico has been doing for 20 years here.
Yep.
That's the old South Orient rail line that runs actually from Coleman to Presidio, Texas. It's a 391-mile run. And 20 years ago, that line was slated to be scrapped. And it was salvaged through some legislative maneuvering last minute, and the line was saved. It's an economic engine for this part of Texas. It interconnects, it doesn't stop at Coleman. I mean, it interconnects with the entire BNSF network throughout the United States and Canadian National, Canadian Pacific, all throughout Canada. But it also interconnects through San Angelo down to Presidio, where it crosses over into Mexico, and it connects into the Ferromex network. Ferromex is kind of like the Union Pacific BNSF of Mexico. They control 70% of the trackage throughout Mexico. So what you've got is you've got an interconnect from the Mexican rail network, which is very, very efficient, over the Presidio Bridge. Of course, it interconnects at other crossings throughout Texas as well, at Eagle Pass and Laredo. But the Presidio Bridge is probably going to be open for traffic sometime in the summer of next year. And so once that opens, that's going to create a real conduit of cargo movement from the U.S. to Mexico and Mexico to the U.S. And San Angelo being a real interconnection, we and Mayor Gunner and several city council members got behind the idea about 5 years ago of finding land in San Angelo that touches the rail line through town and creating a rail port. And that's been done. It's a 183-acre rail port that is operational and fully functional. It's not fully built out because it's going to evolve over time. But an easy way to think about it is that consider it to be a rail-served industrial park is the way to look at it.
So let's talk about, just really quickly, what are some of the things that would come over in as far as cargo?
Well, you're going to probably find a lot of cargoes from the ag sector in this region going to Mexico. Mexico is a big importer of United States agricultural products, which seems rare because Mexico has a very agribusiness heavy component of its own economy. But you also see a lot of components that would come in from Mexico. It's steel, finished products, truck chassis with rail from U.S. down into Mexico. You're going to probably find a lot of aggregates and a lot of bulk chemicals that are going to trade both directions. Mexico is our second largest trade partner next to Canada, and they're very close on parity with each other. I think a lot of people don't know. I didn't know until I started to really work with several organizations in northern Mexico on just how much trade happens between the United States and Mexico. Yeah. It's staggering.
Yeah, no, I just think it's important for people to understand that it's not just the railroad. Like, how does this impact us? Because we do have a lot of agriculture here. We do have a lot of steel manufacturing in this area.
It's a great point.
It's huge.
really, if you had to summarize it, it creates another conduit for us to receive products on a cheaper, lower cost basis because they're coming in by rail, which is far cheaper than bringing it in by truck. You can bring a lot more of it in at one time, and it's a lower cost for us to get the products to other markets like Chicago or Western Mexico, Chihuahua, Monterey, Kansas City. We can take our products and export them a lot less expensively, which directly impacts the bottom line of our major manufacturers here. And that makes them more nimble and able to hire more people, pay more, and explore new avenues of making money.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, let's jump to another one, the solar power plants.
Yeah, that's one that about 8 years ago we started working with a number of renewables companies in the county.
Yes.
So these aren't in the city limits because city limits obviously doesn't have enough land to do these types of developments. And there are 3 right now operational in Tom Green County. And these are major developers. These are around 200 megawatts apiece, very expensive pieces of equipment that have at least a 30-year lifespan. And these are taxable assets. So when you hear of the county okaying the development of a solar power plant, that could be a $200 to $250 million price tag development happening in the county. Obviously, it provides much needed electrical power to the state grid.
Right.
It's not real big on jobs because essentially it's a robot.
It runs itself.
It's kind of a big STEM project. You know, it's a robot, runs itself. But what it does do is it creates a really strong revenue generator for the county.
Okay.
And the secondary effects, sometimes the secondary effects of economic clustering are better than the primary effects. Okay, yeah, we can claim we've got a major stake in the renewable power generation sector, but now we're starting to see the manufacturers of those components coming into San Angelo.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, another one, chemicals company, SMC Global?
SMC Global. That's a company that was recruited to San Angelo in 2017 and started off as a really small kind of experimental company based out of New York City that has just grown tremendously over the last 5 years. And that's a company that is very innovative. They work very closely with Angelo State University. And that's a that's for us to watch.
And I love that you say 2017, so this just kind of speaks to it takes a little bit.
It does. Now SMC Global, for example, they had their big grand opening of their new factory on Dan Hanks last year. Major community partner. Love San Angelo. They love the people. They love ASU. They had a wonderful experience as they went through 3 expansions, and they weren't small. Good relations with the elected officials. So they were on a phone call basis with the mayor's office, with city council members, county commissioners, and what a lot of companies that we've recruited here or expanded here like is that they have constructive, reliable access to the chamber, to the city staff, to the development corporation staff, and to the electeds. And that makes it very efficient. And a lot of problems can get solved very quickly by having that open dialogue and access.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that anytime I hear somebody talk about our community that mentions the fact that you guys all work so well together. So, I mean, you work so well together, you work so well with people that are coming in, and it's just, it's kind of like a flat organizational chart, if you will. Like there's not a lot of layers that we have to go through to make decisions. And
that's a good way to put it. And we may think that, and I believe that that's true, but the real proof is when you get comments from the heads of companies that say, man, this has been a really good transaction and development project that we've worked on. There were a lot of moving parts and everybody worked together. And then you hear that again and again and again. So it means we're doing something
doing something right. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's talk about the last one that's a big deal and the word on the street. Let's talk about Amazon.
Get your packages in 1 to 2 days now.
So are we, and I don't know how much you can talk about, and I know that there's more to come on this, but are we going to anticipate Amazon vans running around our town delivering?
I think that is a very reasonable expectation.
Okay. So what can we discuss about Amazon?
We began working with Amazon in June of 23. And we were, San Angelo, I say we, San Angelo, us, our community, we were part of a competition for the development of one of several RSRs. And that's the jingo, that means rural, super rural. And these are smaller versions of their distribution facilities, what they commonly call a last mile facility in San Angelo. And we were in competition with several other cities throughout the United States for their 24 program, meaning they had to be deployed, operational in 2024. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of patience, and sometimes things got fairly frantic because we had such a large company looking at a market that they were still doing their due diligence on as they were contemplating, planning how they would actually buy land and build the facility. And we worked with them on really proving up that it would be a good market for them to be in, and it worked. And so Amazon was a very good company to work with. They've done this before, so they knew what to do and what not to do. But still, it's a very complex, second largest company in the world. So you've got, I think we dealt with 11 different departments in 5 different states, and it took us 11 months.
Wow.
The facility is under construction. It's just about finished. And so we anticipate mid to late November opening.
Okay.
And they will be operational definitely before year's end. And so it was really special for San Angelo to be selected. The deal moved really fast once it got going and they made approvals. And that's a real magnet for other businesses too, because like I said a minute ago, the primary transaction's exciting, but it's the secondary transactions that really create a lot of wealth and a lot of vibrancy. And so halfway through our negotiations with Amazon, we started getting calls from other companies that kind of seemed to know a little bit more about the Amazon transaction we were trying to negotiate than they maybe should. Well, they had pretty good intelligence, not by us. Mum's the word on what we were doing, but they were catching signals that Amazon was contemplating a move in San Angelo, so they started to inquire, and they follow Amazon around.
Right.
So there's a lot, and Amazon has a lot of support companies that they don't own, but they contract with. And so that's also going to be very exciting too.
So when we talk just Amazon, what do you think that impact will be? And you probably know as far as jobs created here.
It'll be around 100. So you're going to have roughly 50% drivers, delivery personnel, and then 50% will be actually running the distribution facility itself. So pickers, sorters.
Yeah. That's pretty significant.
Loaders, offloaders. Yeah. And so it's going to happen really fast.
Love that. Well, we have a big special guest coming on next month that probably could share more. What do you think about that?
Well, we're trying to get somebody from said company to come visit with us, and so we're working on that.
Okay.
But they would be able to speak a lot more about what does it mean to the community to have the presence of a company like Amazon
this large. Yeah.
And what are the secondary and tertiary yield effects going to be over time for the community?
Yeah.
So initially it's just cool new building, a lot of automation, a lot of robotics, and you get your packages in 1 to 2 days.
1 to 2 days. I love that. And so it's really like to be continued.
To be continued.
And we'll just see where we are 5-10 years from now.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about economic development. When you have a community like this that really encourages us. I mean, that's something that needs to be said. My partner and I, Mike Barry, we get tremendous encouragement from the electeds. We really do. And from just leaders in the community and just average citizens who call us up and share with us ideas and history and different industrial sectors that they think might be a fit. And there's just tremendous encouragement. So you have a lot of people in town want to see this city grow in a really smart way. And it's nice to see that.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
a
agree.
good thing.
I agree. That's always what I hear. And as someone that's in their 30s and has my family here, it's important to me to have opportunity because I love this community. And, and I think it goes without being said, or it goes without, we don't have to say it, Michael, is what I'm trying to say. People trust you guys. They trust you guys. You guys have just exude passion for this community. And I think that speaks volumes as far as, what people are telling you guys and what you've done. This is exciting stuff. I mean, this is truly exciting stuff.
Well, it's gonna provide a lot of wealth creation opportunities for a lot of people. A lot of capital investments happening. That leads to municipal revenues, so a lot of revenue generation. When speaking about, like, say, for example, the renewables community that has built several projects in Tom Green County, we're now working with a lot of battery energy storage projects that are extremely expensive, very durable, 30 to 40 year lifespans, and those are taxable assets. So we have a challenge, just like every other city in the United States, in that we have a low unemployment rate. You're hovering around 3.2% unemployment on a year-to-year basis. So that means we don't have a lot of people to work at, say, 1,000-person factory if one were to try to land here.
Yeah.
But we're looking for ways to build wealth for our community, encourage new development of new different types of industries that complement the San Angelo industrial sectors. That's what makes San Angelo so attractive, because it's so resilient, because we have so many different industrial sectors that are represented here.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Michael, for joining us again this month and keeping us informed. And thank you guys for tuning in. And make sure you stay tuned for next month when we dig in more to our said company with hopefully a special guest to learn more about the impact that these new industries and these new companies have on our community. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for having me.